Yeah. Firstly, I want to thank you for accepting my request and accepting to talk with me.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's a little different for me. I've never been interviewed.
So this is your first interview.
Yeah, it's first time doing anything like this, really.
What is your feeling?
It's different.
Firstly, I want to thank you for giving me your valuable time and coming to my show to tell about your work.
Okay, thank you.
So, can you please introduce yourself to my audience and to the world who watches this video and who listens to you?
Okay, well, my name is Robert Lauer. I go by RP Lauer at the moment. I wrote a book. It has not yet been published, but I'm hoping to by my birthday in May. I'm basically waiting on the cover. So, once the cover's done, I can get the ball rolling. But until then, there's really not much I can do. And honestly, this was a weird experience for me. I've never really done writing. I did some writing when I was a kid, when I was in elementary school and a little bit in junior high, and that's about it. And then last year, I was having a conversation with my wife and my oldest son, and I don't know, something hit me, and I was talking about this idea, and they kept, we basically just kept talking it out, and then the next thing I know, they were like, you should write that down, and so I started the process.
So, what inspired you to write?
I honestly don't even know. I can't even remember what we were having a conversation about something, and I think we were just talking about movies and books and TV shows and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I really can't even remember the conversation because it completely went away once I had this idea, and it basically started with the end. And I have ideas I've had ideas over the years for just little elements of something, but it always lacked a plot, an actual story. It was always just like an element of something. But this actually had what could be a plot. So at their, insistence, basically, I sat down, I started typing out a kind of overview, and then I started researching, the elements of a story, the types of characters, and it just sort of went from there.
So, where do you live?
The United States, North Carolina.
Writing is your full-time job?
No, no, I'm actually a stay-at-home dad.
Can you tell me about it?
Mundane. Honestly, right now, I'm trying to get back to work in other ways. I just don't know what to do at this point. Everything's pretty much locked down. Jobs are hard to come by. But yeah, no, my wife and I, we were struggling, both working full time, and we had an issue with our daycare, and we just couldn't afford daycare that was reliable. Anything we could afford was basically some person that we didn't know working out of their home. So we decided one of us should stay home. We did the math with who made more money, who got, my wife had the insurance. So it was kind of up to me to stay home and take care of the kids. And then one turned into two, turned into three. And right now I'm actually, like I said, I was kind of getting ready to start going out again once the pandemic hit. And then I've been pretty much locked in here ever since.
So, this lockdown made you a writer.
No, actually, the story idea, my first draft was finished before the pandemic hit.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
it was just weird timing.
so why sci-fi?
What's that?
Why sci-fi?
Well, it's actually more fantasy, and I don't know. The funny thing is, or like what started the ball rolling, the part of the idea was the ending, and without like I cannot talk about that without just spoiling the entire story. But because of the elements involved, it really couldn't be anything but fantasy. And I'm a fan of sci-fi and fantasy, so that kind of helped.
So first book you decided to write sci-fi.
Yeah,
Nice. So it is coming out and you're giving gift to the world on your birthday.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. It just really depends on because I need at least 2 months between the time that the cover is ready to go and the time that it fully releases, because that's about how long I think it's going to take to do all the prep work. Because I've purchased the ISBNs, but I can't really get them started until I have a cover. Like everything right now is just waiting for the cover. And then hopefully I'll be able to get some review copies sent out, and I want those to be sent out in enough time that people can actually read it and have a review ready for launch.
Okay. So the second one?
I do technically have the idea for a sequel, but I've been very stalled recently, and a lot of it I think is just because I just want to get through this process first. Because the funny thing is, I wasn't planning on trying to publish like any way. I was gonna write the story and then just post it on something like Wattpad or something like that. And when my wife was reading the first draft, she was like, "No, you got to publish this." And so I was like, "Well, okay, I guess." And so then I just sort of went down that path. And I don't know. Well, I'm kind of waiting to see how this turns out before I decide what to do next, because, like I said, I have an idea for a follow-up, but I'm really kind of okay just writing it and posting it somewhere and getting it out and not necessarily having to wait for, cover and, formatting and all that.
Okay. So what are the questions that came into your mind when you decided to write?
Um, well, I know like some of the first things that I thought about was, what type of characters would a story, what kind of elements does a story have? Um, and one of the first sites I landed on, it was a listing of various character types like the protagonist, antagonist, secondary character, tertiary character, stuff like that. And it actually came with a bit of advice that I really took to heart and did shape it. Uh, it was talking about the main character, how, you can have more than one main character, but if it's your first time writing something, try to limit it to one, maybe two. That even seasoned writers have trouble properly balancing multiple characters. And, that made a lot of sense. And I ended up scaling the idea back a lot based on that. So, and it honestly worked. When I think about the original idea, because the original idea had a huge cast, a lot of different like cities, and that would have been overwhelming.
Do you read books?
Yes. Ironically, I read mostly horror, suspense, thriller, and true crime. So for writing purposes, this is definitely, or with literature, this is definitely a leap. But when it comes to movies, TV shows, video games, stuff like that, I do love sci-fi and fantasy.
Are you good in expressing your thoughts and emotions, feelings through your vocabulary?
I don't know. Maybe. It's really hard to, because I wrote the novel and I wrote 2 short stories. It's really hard to look at them objectively. And I don't know, there are days where I really like what I wrote and I'm proud of it and I'm impressed with myself. And then there are days where I'm just like, no, this really isn't that good. So I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. So I don't know.
So why fictional story? Why not real?
What's what?
Why you're telling a story which is not the real?
I'm sorry, I'm not really following what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Why fictional story?
Oh, fictional. Nonfiction is fun for me to read if I'm interested in the subject. I would never want to write about nonfiction because that would be just research. That would feel like schoolwork.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if there was a subject I was deeply interested in, but I can't think of any real people or events that would really want to sit down and like dig that deeply into. And like, I enjoy fiction. I get enough reality from living. And I know like one big part of my story is compassion and hope and optimism. And a lot of that has to do with the idea that I don't see enough of that in real life anymore. And that's kind of what I want to put out there, positivity.
Awesome. So what is the name of your first book?
It's The Scars of Gaia.
Scars of Gaia.
Yeah.
Nice. How much time you took to express your thoughts in it?
The first draft took about 4 weeks to write. The subsequent drafts and all the editing has probably taken about 9 months of multiple read-throughs and multiple edits. Labeling wise, I'm on my 7th draft, but that's only because when I did the 7th draft, I named it final. And because I named it final, I stopped doing new drafts. But no, I've edited it pretty thoroughly even just since then.
So when did you start writing?
It was the first week of January 2020.
Before that?
I don't remember the exact date though.
Before that, what you are?
I did primarily web coding. PHP, MySQL, JavaScript, things like that. Nothing substantial. Probably about 15 years ago, I worked for an online radio station, but that ended up really going nowhere. And after it closed down, yeah, I pretty much stepped away from coding.
So you are a tech guy.
Yeah, I used to like tech. Unfortunately, technology's kind of surpassed me. It's it advances at such a fast rate, and I just don't have the money to pay for the equipment to really fully keep up. Like my phone right now is, I think, my phone is 5 years old.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not as up with technology these days as I used to be.
So worked in radio station, and you was a tech person. You was into PHP, SQL, MySQL database.
Yeah.
So now,
Now I don't know. That's actually what I've been trying to figure out the last year. You know, most likely I'll try to find an office job somewhere.
nice. So if what do you say about your life?
It's busy, but ultimately fairly boring.
Mhm.
You know, I just take care of kids, be a taxi to them. That's
So
about it.
explain yourself.
In what regard? Because I mean, seriously, that my life is not interesting. We used to live in California, and then we moved to Nevada, and then we moved all the way across the other side of the country to North Carolina, and we've been here about 5 years, and not really much has happened in that time.
Is there anything that you didn't say to anybody that is in you and that you want to share now?
I mean, not really. You know, I love my wife and my family, of course. I am very grateful to the Twitter community, which is something I never thought I'd say. I've never liked Twitter in the past, but the writing community there is beyond amazing. So that was actually quite the pleasant surprise.
So what is your future plans?
Honestly, I pretty much take every day one step at a time. I am hoping to get this book published. Depending on how that goes, uh, if it goes decently enough, I'll definitely finish the second, because I did write the first chapter of the second novel, uh, and it was during November. There's this thing called Nano, where it's National November Writing Month, and the goal is to write 50,000 words in the month of November. And I started trying that, but every day I was more concerned with the word count than actually what I was writing. And so eventually I stepped away and I said, no, I can't do this right now. Like, I can't do a clocked, I can't write on the clock like that. And after that, I don't know, I've been dealing with, the holidays, and now uh, I'm really trying to, like, I'm hoping that the cover's going to be done soon, and that, I can start pushing forward on that. And it was really that realization. I was like, I don't want to get halfway through this novel, the second one, and then have to stop. So once the book's published, once I'm done, once I've done as much of my part as I need to, I know it never ends because you do still have to market and stuff, but once the new stuff is over, then I can sit down, try writing. Uh, Once things return to somewhat normal, once the COVID vaccines are available and working, I'll probably try and look for an office job and just do the writing in the side.
So you worked in a radio station. in which you have to use your vocal cord in order to express your thoughts and emotions. And you worked as a tech person where you have to be extremely logical in order to make bring out the solution. And now you became a writer. So this travel, this journey. So what in writing is that reflecting in your writing?
Sort of, not really. With the coding, I love coding because it is logical and I love the logic. I love the, seeing the steps to writing any kind of script or program. And with writing, there's a certain degree to that, because any given story, it's a problem that has to be solved. It gets solved in a very different way. And the writing problems that tend to come up are more along the lines of how do I describe this? And that's a whole nother thing. It's easy to, if a piece of code stumps me, that's easy to look up. It's really hard to look up how to do, properly describe something, especially if it's something that's not necessarily tangible.
Where do you sit and write?
Couch. I think the entire thing, I sat on the couch with my laptop in my lap and wrote.
And the
I
time?
do, huh?
And the time?
Which time?
At what time you write usually?
Oh, whenever I'm awake and have time. Um, there was never any set schedule, and I never felt like better in the mornings or better in the evenings. It was just whenever I had a moment to sit down and write, I would write. Because other things come first. You got to take care of the kids first. I've got to make meals first. Got to eat first. There were definitely times where my stomach would tell me, yeah, it's time to take a break, man.
So at last, do you have anything to say to the people who watches this video about your work, about anything that you wanted to say?
I don't know. I'm looking forward to see what the reception is like on a grander scale. I've had, I got as many beta readers as I could. Most just sort of disappeared and never, said anything one way or the other. And the reception was definitely all over the place. Some people really loved it and some people really hated it. So I'm very curious to see what the wider world might think if they ever actually get to read it. And
Uh,
I hope people enjoy it.
do you want to say about your book to the world?
I mean, like I said, just I hope people can enjoy it. And if anybody's a advanced reviewer out there, I mean, I will be sending out advanced review copies in hopefully the next couple months.
So if they want to buy, where they can buy?
I'm going to be distributing through Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I know I'm going to do I know Ingram Spark has a way of doing hardback. I want to try to get a hardback done in a paperback. So my website, rplauer.com, any link will end up being on there. And the first chapter is actually available for a download right now.
So I'll put the website link in the description of this video.
Thank you.
So at last, have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
Yes, I did. And they were a lot more interesting than me. But like, I watched a lot of the other authors, especially because that was kind of where I was going to fit in. And yeah, they actually had books. I don't technically have a book yet.
So what you felt after seeing it?
This one
The
or
previous
the
one?
one, the other ones. I enjoyed him very much. It was fun to see other people's perspectives on their own writing.
So thank you very much, sir, for giving me your valuable time and giving answers to my questions and telling about some amount of your information.
Well, and thank you for having me on and inviting me out for this. I am sorry that this wasn't a little more interesting,
It's very
but
good, sir.
and I hope you have a good day.
So can I put this video on my YouTube channel, on social media, on internet, on podcast, everywhere with your permission?
Yes, and if you once I see a link is up, I will definitely put it out there as well.
Yeah,
A
I will
direct
share
link
you.
and all that.
I'll share
Okay,
you once I upload it.
thank you.
Yeah, and I'll put the website of yours in the description of this video. And if anything is there, you can send me. I'll put in the description.
Okay,
Your books. It can be your books, links in future also.
okay, thank you,
Thanks, sir. Keep going. Keep doing what you love.
and you too.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Bye.